Um, thank you. Thank you, Tami.
Okay.
So the inner self. So I guess for me, there are a couple ways that I consider the inner self. Not only do I consider it my inner voice, but I also think of it as part of my higher self. So it's that part of me that's guiding me. Um, Now, when I also say guiding me, I'm still learning what specifically that means because I still have the idea that I should hear a different voice in my head instead of my own. And I can't quite figure out, what's the difference between ego and inner self, inner voice, or what have you. But what is anybody else's experience? How do you interpret your inner self?
I'll go if nobody else is. I was thinking about that today because you had a question. And, for me, it's like dropping in my heart and hearing the whispers and the, you know, not the, I guess I have finally discovered the difference between my ego. That's my brain thinking. And I guess I feel like now I listen more. I I, you know, I might take a few deep breaths or um just focus on my heart more. And for me, it just comes in the form of messages all day long now. It's about turning off your mind and really tuning in to yourself is the way I kind of view it. So you're always connected. You never were not connected to your inner self. And some people call it the higher self. So it, it does take practice, I think. And when fear pops up, I automatically know it now. Oh, that's just a fear. And it's about surrendering and kind of, saying, okay, I know you're here and let that go. So that's,
So are you able to tell the difference between your inner self and your ego voice?
I think so now. Yes. I
You
will
think
have to
it's just
say that it took me a lot of manifestation event forms. It took me a lot of different things, but tuning out to that fear fear-based voice is how I did it. Now, I'm not saying I don't have fear because I still do, but it's going more like with the flow of life, like, oh, this is happening. Yes, I see it. I might feel something, but anytime I feel an emotion that's like on the lower scale, I know automatically that's just my ego, and it's not a love-based thought. And I can usually quickly turn that around and say, "Oh, well, thank you for showing me where I still have a little fear or still have a limiting belief," and then shift it quickly over to, well, you know, I if I tune into my heart, I know where to go and what to do. I know how to make decisions. You're getting those nudges all day long. I'm hungry. Let's eat. A song comes on and words in it come out at you and you just feel it. And so you're actually tuning in to the synchronicities all day long when you really start to listen. That's how I see it. How about you, Paige?
I see it a lot the same way. I think that recently I have really gotten a much better understanding of knowing when things are my ego, and I will catch myself quicker before I've let it carry me away, like it maybe in the past, and I'll notice, oh wow, this is coming from my ego, and especially if it's like judgment or criticism or something that, like you said, that's not based in the heart. And I will try to just accept it and then like think of it as like junk mail that came in, and like, I'm not going to read the junk mail. I'll just toss it out right now. And so I've tried to do that more often, where sometimes I would let myself kind of dwell there long, and before I realized what I was doing.
Mm.
So that definitely has been a lot, has been something I've been working on a lot lately. I don't know that it was that clear to me before when things were coming from my ego. It was a little more confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't, and that's the thing, we call it manifestation event or contrast, but, oh, I'm feeling fear.
Yes.
And then I just tune in and say, oh, that's interesting. And then I can get to a little more neutral and then shift it all the way to, oh, that happened for me. And yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that interesting? So it's a shift in how you view outside conditions, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, it really does break down to just love or fear. And you think, if I question, like, is this loving or, and I think, no, it's not, and I'll realize this is fear. So this is coming from my ego.
Yes.
And then I'll try to be like, all right, and just accept it. But I used to get mad at myself over it. Now I just accept it and be, try to be more nurturing to myself. Like, all right, a little more helpful to me than being so hard on myself when I catch myself doing that now.
Yeah. And it's kind of that softening makes it easier, and when you're in the middle of a manifestation event or a contrast or a storm, you can't pull out a form. You don't have it with you. So there's got to be a way. So I just kind of take a deep breath and say, oh, isn't that interesting? What is this emotion trying to show me? Thank you. And like you said, get to acceptance. There's JoAnn. It's, it does take a lot of practice though. And I'll say it's taken me up to my age. I still have emotions, and it can be something small. Like this morning, I had a minor manifestation event, and this is a good example. I had to go drop something off at my son's house, and he's got an alarm, and I know the code, right? But I don't do it very often. Like I hardly ever go in there and use the alarm system. So he sent me the instructions that were wrong. So I'm in there pressing all the buttons, and of course it won't go off. And then I call him and he doesn't answer. And, and meanwhile, I'm at his house and the alarm is sounding. And so I've got this crazy thing. Well, he finally remembered how to do it correctly and told me how to do it. And I got it off. But this went on for about 10 minutes. The whole neighborhood, is probably thinking, what? We got burglars in the neighborhood. And he's like, are you okay? I said, yes, I'm fine. I wasn't breaking in the house. I wasn't going to be arrested. I had permission to be there. But in that moment, it was unnerving to hear all that loud noise. But
Yeah, a little panicky.
yeah. So, but I'm saying in the middle of an event, I could have gotten angry or mad or sat down and cried. How would that solve it? It wouldn't. But what I did was I just walked outside where it was not as loud. He called me and it was just one button difference. He told me to press the pound sign, but it was the off sign. So, I mean, I was trying all kinds of stuff, but it wasn't working out too good. But when I just walked in there and relaxed and did it, I was fine. But, the emotion and then he just, oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you're okay. Are you okay? And then my daughter-in-law called me, "Are you okay?" Well, I was fine. I mean, it didn't injure me in any way, but, it is a little unnerving. So this event was created by me to learn how to be calm in situations and not to go into my ego self. Oh, I could have gone that direction, but I chose to just be neutral in the circumstances, and that was a minor event, but I don't know if anybody else um, has anything else to say about that.
Hey, JoAnn.
Hey
So,
there.
anyway, so just to bring you up to speed, we're talking about our inner self and how we distinguish it from our ego voice, and how do we know what to look for, basically, when it comes in to guide us.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I as I'm learning myself, I'm really leaning into my emotions, because I'm still at that place. Tami, you were just talking about the fact that it's been a journey for you. I'm still at that place where I don't always trust the voice inside of me. So I really lean on those emotions to tell me, okay, where specifically am I in alignment or not alignment with my inner self? And then if I'm not feeling good, or if I'm feeling that little twinge of something off, I'm like, okay, then I know to really focus in and try to connect from that standpoint. I feel, just like you said, I feel as if I'm getting better in identifying when my inner voice is coming in by itself, but I still find that it's, I guess, when you're 47 years old and you're used to allowing your ego to make your
That's right.
decision,
That's right.
it just, like you said, it becomes a practice, and being able to trust yourself to do something different than what you've done your entire life.
Yeah. I mean, and that takes time. You really should pat yourself on the back for even trying, because you don't realize how far you've come unless you look back,
Mhm.
several years, because we're taught to just stuff our emotions in or turn them off, and I won't say that I didn't have a couple of thoughts like, oh, yeah, you know uh why is this happening for me, but I quickly say that, oh, this is just a small event, and this emotion is a lower emotion, so I quickly see them now. um And, I think and early on when I was like in the boot camp and doing the manifestation of event forms before, I kind of worked with Jessica a little bit on it too. And I wasn't really going deep and finding the limiting belief. I wasn't finding the emotion, and I wasn't finding the limiting belief. But one of the challenges was I had so many limiting beliefs. So,
Mhm.
and then I focused in on one instead of trying to fix all my limiting beliefs. I would just choose one, and I would just focus on that. And early on, Pam, trust was a big one for me, because
Mm.
maybe I was taught that we couldn't trust the universe. But now I'm sort of feeling a lot more limitless and a lot more free. And even if I do something that in the past I absolutely would never have done, I feel like that's for my expansion now. So, oh, this is coming. If I say yes, this is for my expansion and growth.
Interesting. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so I pushed through a lot of fear. And it's funny, I can remember being at work, and we had to use adjectives or words to describe other coworkers, and they would call me fearless. And I'd be like, I'm full of it. How could you do that to me? Like, I think we all are secretly full of fear, and we've just been taught, oh,
Mm.
you have to wear your seatbelt and you have to do this and you have to do everything a certain way. Cause I was, a pretty good girl, but I would take risks that a lot of people won't. And now I see it clearly in a lot of my friends, they,
Mhm.
oh, I can't do that. I can't go to a bar in Atlanta on New Year's Eve, and I can't do this and I can't do that. All the things they name, all the things they can't do. Why not? Well, it's because you're afraid. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll tell you something that just happened to me recently. So I'm adopted, and when I was 30, I found my birth mother. She lives in Chicago, and we keep in touch here and there. There's times when we keep in touch more, and other times we kind of don't keep in touch for a while. But about a year ago, I started sending her postcards anytime I went anywhere, and I just let her know what I was doing. And so I'd send her sometimes 4 postcards a month, and never heard back from her. And then around Christmas time, she texted me Merry Christmas, and I asked her if she'd like to catch up on the phone sometime. She said, sure, let me call you in a couple of days. Well, she didn't ever call me. And so I one day thought, you know what, I felt rejected in a way, like she doesn't want a relationship with me. And so I thought, I'm not sending her any more postcards. I'm not, like she's going to have to make the next move. And I'm not putting myself out there because it hurts when I don't get anything back. And then I started listening to myself and thinking, am I only doing this to get something back? And I started, thinking about what I was expecting in return for what I did, and thought like, even if she doesn't reach out to me, but she gets these postcards and, it brightens her day or whatever, even if I don't hear back from her, my point was to just say hi to her. And so if she gets the postcards and sees how I'm doing and that's enough for her, then I decided I was, just going to keep doing it. And when she's ready, she's ready, or whatever. I guess I just at some point was like, that's it. I'm not getting anything back. And so I don't know. I just kind of had that realization of what I was expecting in return or why I was doing it. Stuff like that. I don't know. Does any of that make sense?
It does.
I think that's really awesome.
That's transactional love. That's not unconditional love, but
Right.
I have to do this to get this. No, you just,
Yeah.
it,
Or an attachment to the relationship has to look a certain way,
yes.
whether it's with your birth mother or adopted mother,
Yeah.
oh, well, if we connect, then something's wrong if we don't then become best friends, or whatever.
Yeah.
It makes me think of when Joshua says, parents are just the portals. And, we have this idea that we're supposed to give birth or adopt, or in whatever manner we become a parent to a child. And then we're supposed to teach them because we know better because we're older. And in truth, we're just supposed to bring them into the world and keep them safe till they can keep themselves safe, and then they can teach us everything.
Yeah, they teach us.
Because
Right.
we're not as up to speed as they are. So
I think one of those meditations that's on relationships, it says, like for people to show love to us in whatever way they want, even if they don't say I love you, then that's that's also it's fine for them to show it in whatever way that they want, and for me to be okay with that. So I was like, all right. But I got myself all worked up about it. It was about to be cut off.
Out of curiosity, Paige, what do you think was the thing that got you there? The thing that you were able to tap into that then turned your perspective around and said, no, I'm not going to let this control my attitude.
I think that I felt really ugly inside the way I was feeling about it. I felt angry. I didn't like all those emotions I was having about it. I was like, oh, this does not feel good to have these conditions for her in our relationship. And I was like, I don't want to feel this way. And then I was like, this is like my ego, me feeling rejected. And I was like, what is the loving way? And I was like, well, I just wanted to say hi to her. And that's what I was doing. So, now I can just stop feeling disappointed. I don't know. I just realized that I did not feel good about it in any way. Now, I guess that was my little guide post to say, this is not a healthy reaction or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
No, that's awesome. I was at an event that Ashley Goner put on. She's in the Joshua group, and she does
Yeah.
the podcast Uncover Your Magic. And someone was talking, it wasn't one of the presenters, but someone was talking, and she said the most amazing thing. And it's so funny because it applies to exactly what you did, Paige. She's like, when I'm in a situation where I become uncomfortable, she's like, it's the 3 R's. I will recognize it, I'll reflect on it, and then I'll release it. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, that's cool. I
Love
like
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
That's
that
really
too.
good.
I think one of the
Good.
exercises, it's not in the foundation, but it's in the ascension. And that is when you feel those emotions, you just sit with them a minute. Like, don't try to push them away. Don't try to, you know, stop it, and then, well, now I'm like Paige, I'll say, how would love react? What would be the most
Mm,
loving thing, because the opposite of anger or would be love or fear. It's really a fear, but there were a few. I remember reading a book on the major fears, and that's fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of failure, and then a lot of other fears fall under that. So
Yeah.
you you don't have to know them. You just have to begin to recognize that lower emotions are, yes, I feel angry. Yes, I feel rejected. And you just, like like she's saying, you accept it. Oh, well, isn't that interesting? And then reflect it or just release it. That was it. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, well, by me saying that's it, I cut her off. I'm not contacting her anymore. That was me trying to fix the situation and keep myself from getting hurt or whatever. So that was like an urge to control the situation by saying, all right, I'm done sending her postcards, but
Mhm.
really that is not that's not really the solution either. So I just thought, I was doing this because I wanted to. So I'm just going to keep doing it because I really actually do want to do it without conditions attached,
Yeah. Yeah. And I send out love to people that maybe are struggling in life. And, I mean, she may be.
Mm.
And I
I have no idea what's going on.
and so I often, if I feel someone's, that I want to, like you send a message, I send out, like, I envision them in a bubble of love and send them a ray of love, because that really is the solution to the problem, and for yourself too. And early on, I used to do Ho'oponopono. I
Oh
would do
yeah.
I would do forgiveness. And
Hmm.
the concept, you're not forgiving them, because we're all one. So that is that is a thing, like, hey, I forgive you for rejecting me and showing me where I have a limited belief, and I send you love, and I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, and thank you. And it seems to help some for me.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
practice.
forgiveness is kind of like Pam, you said, it's really the release, I
That's
mean,
the
it's
release.
all language, and how we label things is kind of hard, but really forgiveness is kind of accepting it and letting it go. Like, I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm not going to feel negative about it. I'm not going to be mad about it or feel like you did something to me or be a victim of anything. It's like, okay, this is what it is. This is how I felt about it, and I'm okay with it, and I'm letting it go. So I know that's how I look at forgiveness now after doing Joshua's stuff. There's a different slant on it than what the definition I would have said the forgiveness was before. But
Yeah, the forgiveness is for you, huh? I mean, I guess
mhm,
by me forgiving her, I was
yeah,
really letting myself be okay. I was like, all
Yes.
right,
Yes.
yeah. It's like it's fine. I'm done with it. Moving on. Like it's all good. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's interesting too because I did some work also with Jessica, and we got through a lot of like a huge limiting belief that I have from my childhood, but it came full circle in the fact that I had to get to forgiving myself for creating that childhood. Technically, yes,
Mhm.
I forgave my mom and dad, but I had to get to the point of understanding why they did what they did in order to move me along my own path of spiritual discovery and so forth. So yeah, I think that's a huge part of it,
It
being
is.
able to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I looked over the documents for this class too, and the inner self, you know, I read all that and all, but I had a dream. It was probably, I don't know when it was. It was probably 6 months ago. And in the dream, I was in an adventure park and I was going around, and there were two people I knew in the dream, my uncle, and he had a speedboat, and Christy. But I was going around this adventure park looking at kayaks. Oh, I'm going to be okay here because there's kayaks. Oh, I'm going to be okay here because there's speedboats. And then I walked in a room and I chose um, my children. It wasn't my children though. But it was people like my children. And then she pointed at me and said, "Oh, let's choose that one." But I'm saying, it was like I was playing a game. I was just an avatar walking around picking up people, and oh, I like that one. I'll take one of those. So, I'm saying there were people I did not know in the dream. And there were only two people I did know, but that's how your life is chosen. You choose all of the people in your life. Even we even choose Pam and Paige and Kim and
Mhm.
my sister, I chose her. I'm saying, I chose my uncle. You choose your friends, the people that you're going to marry, all that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny, that's what the lesson's about. It's like you're an avatar in a game. You're playing Sims and you're walking around, and your higher self or your inner guidance is really the one in charge. So the only
Right,
time you
right.
feel those extreme negative emotions is when you're resisting what's happening.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm.
So for me, when I learned that concept, that actually felt freeing to me because it felt
Mhm.
to me like it took away the pressure of doing things right. Like I got the feeling that, okay, if everything's already been planned out and all I have to do is follow the path or the guidance, then that means I can't get it wrong, from
That's
that
right.
standpoint. But I was talking to someone else, and I can't remember who now, who actually felt the opposite when they heard that, and they felt a bit out of control. Did anybody else feel that at all, or what were your thoughts? No, no.
Yeah, I was like you. I felt it was like, oh, that totally makes sense. And oh, yeah, it's all fine. And if I chose to, you know, walk through life blindfolded with one hand and one leg tied behind my back, why would I be mad because I have to hop around and fall down and scramble to get up until I figure out how to get one of my limbs loose? I mean, it's like, well, of course I'm going to be wobbly and stumbly for a while. And there's nothing wrong with that. I purposely put myself in situations so, it wouldn't just be just walking, because we can just walk in the non-physical, it's like I put myself in places where it would be hard so that I could get myself out of it. And so, and that's the fun of it. Now I realize that. But at those times before, when you're going through your childhood or those difficult times, you're like, oh my gosh, this is awful. And in victim mode, you're like, what the heck? But then when you get in creator mode, you're like, wow, I could just imagine myself planning this. Okay, let's get like, one abusive parent, and then one that leaves, and then let's be really poor, and let's have be this sex or this race or this whatever, so that we're discriminated against, and so that then all of a sudden I have this friend betray me, and oh, wouldn't it be fun if and you just keep adding to the list, and then it's like, okay, let's start, ready, set, go.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this is really fun. But, when we start living it, we're like, what the hell? But yeah, so I was just like you. It was just like, well, yeah, no pressure. It's supposed to be a challenge, And the bigger the challenge, the more, I mean, I think of times when Josh, says you guys are, I mean, not even just the leading edge, but, like you're the bravest, you're the most courageous, you're the ones that, took on the biggest risks or the hardest assignments or things like that. And it's like, yeah, we're doing like advanced placement courses here. We took on the really tough assignments because we thought that would be fun. So I don't know.
I always
Yeah.
think about that when Jessica says, or not Jessica, when Joshua says, your life is supposed to be fun. And I always think, okay, please clarify what your definition of fun is, because from my understanding, like huge wars and catastrophic events are considered fun up in the non-physical. So,
Yeah.
please have what that definition of fun is. So
Yeah.
That
might be a little different than mine.
Yeah, I think that we do have to have friction in order to grow, because if everything just was always going along fine, we wouldn't have anything to overcome and we wouldn't grow. But I do think when he says to think, of it as fun, is just to lighten up about our approach to it all and not be so, to be more gentle with our approach.
Yeah. Which actually
Make it like, okay, this
to,
will be fun.
Yeah, which actually comes down to one of the consistent things that I've heard. So Joshua was like my introduction to channeling. And since then I've started listening to other channels just to comparison, curiosity. And there's several things that are consistent throughout, but one of the things that is consistent is that all of them have their own version of follow your passion, follow your excitement, do the things that are fun to you, do the things that bring joy to you. And I think that is one of the ways, and I can't remember which one said that is how your inner self guides you as well, is that when you feel that excitement, that fun part of you, they're saying, yes, go in this direction. Don't worry about where it's leading you. Don't have an ideal. Just go there, follow that. And I thought that was really interesting, because as much as that sounds easy, I think we talk ourselves out of having fun a lot, I want to go. So actually, Paige, when I was at my first retreat with Paige, and she's a painter and is an artist and does these amazing pieces of art. And so I was inspired by you, Paige, of picking up painting again. And so every once in a while I'll do that. But even still, I have to fight that, oh, I should be doing something more important type thing.
That's funny. Well, if our bad feelings are showing us what to turn away from, then our excitement when we're doing something like that is probably telling us what to go towards. So I guess they're both opposite ends that tell us towards here, away from here,
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. So
So
I was thinking, go ahead, Tami.
Well, and that is it. White Light said, follow your, go with what lights you up. And
Yeah.
we just take things way too seriously, I think. Like I've
Mhm.
lightened up a
Yeah.
lot, and I can remember being very, very serious, but I've always had a crazy sense of humor too. So, you know, I just lean into it a little bit more now. And, I think I've always been authentic, but I might have held back in the past a little bit. And, but I'm just not seeing things as serious anymore. Like I think that
Hmm.
if we just,
Yeah.
if we just take the pressure off, like things are not that serious and we make them
Mhm.
huge, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've heard Joshua say this too at times in different ways, but the first time I heard it was Abraham Hicks, and I heard it many times there that we come in and we have the contrast and to so we can have the sad so we can really understand the happy and the duality of the world and all that. But it was something about like you guys come in and you guys just like ran with it. You didn't really plan to come in and just go down the rabbit hole. Like you came in to be like, ooh, that kind of hurts. Okay, well, let's look at the other side of this. Like maybe like I can't remember how it was phrased, but um like you were meant you intended to come in and do like 95% fun and 5% the contrast that helps you
Yeah.
realize the fun, but you guys have got it flipped. You're spending 5%
Mhm.
doing time doing fun
Mhm.
and 95% like going down the rabbit holes of victimhood and all that. And it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you don't have, I mean, you can you know cut your finger and say, ow, okay, pain, not my favorite, and then look at the times that you don't feel pain and how wonderful it is. Or you can break all your bones and end up in the hospital for a month and understand how pain is not your favorite and how wonderful it feels to not be in pain. Like you don't have to end up in the hospital, but you could just cut your finger and be like, oh, okay. But we don't. We end up in the hospital over and over and over again. Like we take it to the extremes, which I mean, on the one hand, though, then I think, okay, well, there's the extreme of fear and then extremes of love, and the balance. And the darker we go in one place, then the more love and light comes out of it. But still, everything doesn't have to be like that. Or, maybe we'll do that here or there, but it doesn't have to be our daily life. But we make it our daily life of the 95% fear, 5% fun. So
Mhm.
I think about that and I'm like, let's just flip it. If we live everything in joy, we can be having manifestation events all day long, but they're little and they're just
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. Yeah, didn't like that. Okay, moving on. It's all good. I'm fine. And then go on the next thing. And yeah, so why don't we do that? I'm trying to do that. I'm doing that much more now, but it was like, oh, so easy. That's another thing I've heard through a lot of channels, a lot of different people. Life is supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be easy. The
Mhm.
solution to, everything it's easy. And you're thinking, okay, well then, why does it not feel easy? Because we're making it feel hard, but it can be as easy as that. Just follow your
Mhm.
bliss, use your emotional guidance and just, live as enjoy as much as you can. And like, that's all you have to do. Just live in love, be love.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
Lighten up. The
Yeah,
lighter, the more we
exactly.
lighten
Yeah,
up, the more
I
light can come
I
through
often
us.
tell my son
Yeah.
that, like, when, I will spend time with them, and sometimes he just is really serious. Now he's a lot like me. He's a lot of fun. He's a very cool guy, but he just gets really hard and down on his kids, and I'll be like, "Ooh, if I could go back, I would just lighten up a little bit," you know? And one time, his wife, she's really stern on the kids, and we're like polar opposites, you know. And she said one of the kids got in trouble, and she said, "What do you want me to do? Go buy an ice cream cone?" I said, "Well, that sounds like a good idea." Or
Yeah.
she'll call me a Buddha or something. And she just it's like, you're just too happy, too kind, you let the kids run over you. And I'm like, yeah, that's my job. I mean, they don't,
I'm grandma. Of course I do.
I
That's
mean,
right.
being a grandma's great, but I'm saying it, but it's funny, they call me though. And then I'll be like, well, if I go back to the 8th grade, or it's not really that important. I just try to lighten it up, but I can't expect them to be like me. That's,
Mhm.
because sometimes I'll get in my emotions and I'll say, oh, stop picking on my 6 foot tall grandson. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't make him feel bad. Because I think you're going to feel bad enough, but whatever it is, he's here to experience it because he chose them. And,
Mhm.
Mhm.
so I have to accept that, because, a lot of my manifestation events are like not close to me anymore. It's like they've moved out. Like, after doing this work a long time, it's like they've moved out beyond me to my children and my friends. And, it's like, and I still want to help everybody and do things, but the kindest thing you can do is just send them love, and not try to change them or do anything. They're going to come to their own realization, because everybody has their own inner guidance, their own journey and path and lessons that they chose. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Very good point.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm sitting here thinking about, as you were talking, Tami, about the people who are here just to experience emotions, because Joshua says that sometimes people or beings or souls will choose to come to Earth just for the experience of knowing what it's like to feel separated, and then all of the emotions associated with that. So it makes me wonder if that's the case, obviously they have an inner self, but I wonder how that inner self is guiding them, if they're here to experience as much as they can. I mean, I guess we all are, but I'm wondering, I don't know where I'm going with
Their
this.
inner self is throwing
I was just thinking,
obstacles and rocks
yeah,
and boulders
I'm just
at them,
like, huh.
and
Yeah.
and some children that'll drive them insane and all kinds of stuff. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
And they're
They
not
set up all
listening.
kinds of
Right.
manifestation producing
And if there's no
circumstances.
drama, they'll turn on drama TV. And if there's no fear,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like they thrive off that energy, and
Mm-hmm.
if
Mhm.
they're born that way. Like, I see their inner beings, these children, like my children and my grandchildren. I've seen them and they're growing up, and they have a personality their whole life. Like my 9-year-old grandson, he's kind of a grumpy, argumentative, smart and sneaky, and he's loving, but he had that personality when he was born. So, you can fight it and not allow him to do what he's going to do. But if you do, you're going to have a problem. I mean, because he's going to create a problem for you. And,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure I was like that too. I mean, I don't think I was always easy on my mother, especially. She was kind of controlling and sweet and kind, but at the same time, like, I've just always been disorganized and just did things. I can remember her trying to teach me how to make a cake, and she had to do all these extra things and sift the flour and I don't know what. It was like all these, like, and you could only put your cup this way and you couldn't do it this way. I don't know. It was bizarre to me, and I never could figure it out. And I'd be in there and I'd make a cake and have it done. And she'd be like, well, you didn't do this and this and this. Like, she would add 40
Mm-hmm.
steps to everything that she did.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, it can be done in 5. Like, why do it in 40?
Mhm.
It's kind of like
So
wasting energy.
did you raise your children differently then from that
Oh,
experience?
yes. I was pretty free. Like my dad was kind of free spirit too, and I was pretty free. But
That always reminds me, because my dad was very, very controlling. Like he would get mad at me. He'd tell me to sweep the floor, but then get mad at me if I was holding the broom wrong.
yes, that's kind of
It was
crap.
things
Sound like
that.
my dad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so now, with my kids, they're like, well, how do I do this? I'm like, I don't care. Just do it. You know what I'm looking to be the end result. How you get from A to B, I don't care. And I'm there to help them, obviously. But I'm like, my way is not the only way. You can go 300 different ways on how to do that. So
Yeah.
That's
I
good.
was more like that. I would not try to control it as much. And my kids turned out fine. But I think critical thinking skills, and kindness are more important than anything you can teach them. That's the most important. And they teach you that. So why not just allow them to have a little personality and do their own thing and learn? Most people learn by doing.
So Kim, do you have any kids?
You're gonna make me say something, huh? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
I said you're gonna make me say something. I know. It's like, oh, there's
No,
not that many
well,
people. I
no,
just feel like observing.
No,
But
you're
anyway,
fine.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
daughter. Yeah, she's 25.
Okay.
So, and I have
The
a stepson who's
The question I was going to ask was, because I know Tammy's got kids, and Kim, I didn't know if you did or not. Paige, I know you don't. JoAnn, do you or no?
Yeah, I've got two stepkids, and then
Okay.
our youngest daughter, who's actually my step niece that we have raised. So
Gotcha.
it's bizarre.
So-
Talk about crazy circumstances to set up your life. But anyway,
So
go
I
ahead.
was going to ask, and this is a legitimate question for me because it is something that I've been rolling around with. So my kids are 9 and 12, and I would love some ideas from you guys about, all of you, about how you would introduce the concept of the inner self to kids that age, not necessarily to say you need to listen to your inner self, but those slow ways of saying, okay, you're feeling this. What do you think that's telling you? So does anybody have any thoughts about that?
well,
Like the emotional
I've been
guidance
doing.
is part
Oh,
of it.
sorry.
Oh no, I was just to say, like you were talking the, emotional, using your emotions to guide you, and kind of broadly start from there. Um, uh, I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. But go ahead, Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So I've been doing this since 2019, and so that Ruby was now she's 25, so she was like 20, I guess 19, 20, and so I used to have her listen to Joshua Live, but your kids are young to be doing that. But I would just read things to her and have her listen to things, and she used to kind of make fun of it, and now she'll talk about. As a matter of fact, all her roommates will say how they have manifestation events, and yeah, they use the language, and she, just from my sharing with her things about, like, say, I had a manifestation event, I'll tell her, how I processed it and stuff, and now she kind of does the same thing just from sharing. So maybe just by sharing with them,
Yeah, being the example.
simple things. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just by being
My
that
inner-
example.
I
Mhm.
will say
Mhm.
things I do is I ask them questions, instead of you let them bring it up, but using words like intuition, and you know what to do, you know the right thing to do, follow your heart, just things like that. Um and and
I kind of stay away from the right thing to do, because that sounds to me as a, well, what do you think I would want you to do type of thing, instead of what your inner self is saying. That's a tricky one. That used to
I
trip me up
kinda-
sometimes.
yeah, I often ask, well, how does it feel? It's okay to say, it's okay. Teaching them to say no to their no and yes to their yes. That's like
I like that.
that's a big one with
Mhm.
kids, you know, because
Yeah.
you know they're going to follow. You got some followers, and then you got some leaders, and
Mhm.
so I will say that's one thing that Haley's taught me. She doesn't. I didn't like to say no. She doesn't like to say no. Like, you can be too kind. It's okay. Stand up. Be proud. Say no. If that's not for you, just no. Um,
Yeah.
and you
I'm
know,
kind
because
of taking the pressure off. Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah.
Oh, I was just thinking, taking the pressure off. And then Pam, you said something about, I don't want to feel like they are trying to do what I think would be the right thing to do. But just taking the pressure off by, everything is going to be fine. It doesn't, in the end, I trying to think about how I would say it to someone, like to my kids, because I'm in the opposite. I did it all the opposite, because like totally wrong. I was trying to control everything. Thought it was for your own good. I was teaching you things out of fear and trying to bubble wrap you and keep you from being hurt. Like, go, but and when I did that, she actually, blossomed. But just taking the pressure off of, it's all going to be fine. There's no wrong path. There's no wrong thing. Even if somebody else calls it wrong, you'll learn something from it. And then maybe you'll decide, okay, I don't want to do that anymore, I'll do this. But like, there there's no pressure to do this activity or go to this school or have this career, or I think back to Christy saying, she let her daughter choose what school she went to, and people were like, oh my gosh, what, she's not going to grow up, and what if she doesn't want to go to college, and what if she'll never have a good job? And she went to college and she has her own business. I mean, it's like, not saying that you have to go to college or have your own business, but it's like her path was going to be her path. And I feel like they're going to do it. And maybe they wanted the obstacles of a parent who forces them to do things, or tries to guilt them into something, or tries to bubble wrap them, and then they have to figure out how to get where they're going in spite of it. But if you just like release the pressure, where they don't feel like, oh gosh, what if I make this decision? Don't worry about it, just make that decision. Okay, what if you decide to do this thing and it didn't go as you thought? Well, what'd you learn from that? Okay, well, next time you'll do different. And that's where I feel like they trust, because it's almost like you tell them not to do this thing and then they're going to do the opposite just to spite you, or just because they're curious. But if you just kind of say all the options are on the table, within reason, like, they don't want you to kill, die, do something dangerous, but within safety concerns, all options are on the table. And then they really will have to think about, what do I want, not what I think mom wants or what society wants. What do I want? Because I can do anything. So what do I want? And I feel like that's the way to get them to follow their inner voice. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Mhm.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Yeah. Yeah. So that being said, I'm going to turn it around and say, are we living this ourselves?
I am now, but I wasn't before. I was the complete opposite. I was the don't. Here's the do this. Here's what Joshua says. Here's what JoAnn did. So, yeah.
I
But
find
yeah,
it
you do have to do it
so-
yourself.
Yeah, I find it so easy to be able to tell other people what they should be doing, oh, this is how you listen to your inner voice. This is how you do what I believe is right. And, obviously you're doing it with the goodness of your heart, while at the same time not necessarily practicing it myself, saying, oh, Well, I'm mad right now, and I know that I shouldn't feel mad right now, and I should go do something fun, but I really need to go do this thing over here that I've been putting off that everybody else is expecting me to do. And that'll make everybody else happy, even if it doesn't make me happy, but I feel the pressure of that, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like Paige said, being the example, because they will feel the disconnect if you're saying,
And feel
do
aligned.
this, but I'm going to do differently.
Yeah, feel
Mhm.
aligned with your choices, even if you do the thing you should be doing, because we all have things we feel like we should be doing.
Yeah.
So, align with that before you do it. Okay. I have to, I have to, there are things that I like I like a house that's halfway neat. So, cleaning and organizing, that cooking, those are things that you do, and you can do them in joy or you can do them out of alignment. And,
Mhm.
you know, really trying to get in alignment with everything you do, like whether
Yeah,
it's
that's
work,
huge.
whether it's, taking a bath and brushing your teeth, whatever it is, you can be in
Mhm.
alignment with every single thing you do.
Yeah.
If you're doing things,
Tammy, what do you consider in alignment? I hear that word, and sometimes I'm like, does that feel neutral? Does it feel like you're enjoyed? Does it feel, I mean,
Acceptance, more
ooh,
acceptance instead of resistance,
yeah.
perhaps. I don't know. That's how I
Yeah.
would see it.
I mean,
Or above the horizon line, as Joshua says,
yeah.
anywhere on the love spectrum above,
mm,
Well, that's
neutral or above.
this is an example. So if someone asks you to do something and you're really feeling like you want to say no and you say yes. Well, if you say yes and you're going to do it, like for instance, my sister asked me to drive to West Virginia and I really wanted to say no, but in the past I probably would have said yes because I'm a people pleaser. And I said no, or I don't always say no. Sometimes I'll say, let me think about it. That means I'll never call her back. She knows that now. But I don't want to argue with her all the time. But usually when I say that, that means no. But I'm saying, so if I decided, oh, well, another thing is, okay, so is an opportunity um from God, like a inspiration. So that
yeah,
so
yeah. I was gonna
okay.
ask that. I'm like, okay,
So
you're feeling no, but it could be an inspiration.
right.
So,
So I might go there to meet one of my, newest best friends, or, who knows? I might go up there and have an adventure. I've got 2 cousins there. I've been a couple times. I really love it. The snow is pretty, and but so what I'm saying is you can view it as an opportunity. So I could have said yes or no. I just if I said yes and I was getting in my car, like before I went, I'd be like, oh, I'm just curious about what's going to happen. you know, oh, this is going to be fun. Or, oh, I've got this paperwork I've got to do. Oh, well, I'll be happy when this is finished. Like set an intention to just move through it as neutrally as I can. Um,
mm,
um,
With acceptance instead of resistance.
there you go.
mm,
Because if I get in my car and I'm like, oh, I should have said no, I'm so mad at her, then I'm going to attract in more negative beliefs. And then I'm probably going to slide around in the slippery snow and boo boo again. I don't know if it turned out as well as it did the first time. It might not. But I'm just
yeah,
saying,
I still haven't figured out. And I asked this question of Joshua, and I can't remember the answer, but I remember having a little bit of clarity, but not a lot, of when is inspiration, or no, when is fear to inspiration? Okay, let me start that again. When we receive inspiration, I don't know how to tell what's fear when I say no versus what's intuition when I say no. Like, for example, Tami, your trip to West Virginia, is your intuition saying no to keep you from a major accident? or is it fear that's saying no because you're scared of getting into another
Right.
accident? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
how to differentiate those.
I just didn't want to do it. But here we go. Um,
Mhm.
I knew immediately, like, you have to understand, Pam, all paths lead to the same destination.
That's a good point. There
So,
are no wrong choices.
yeah, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. And even I think it was on the call the other day, he said, you're really not actually going anywhere and doing anything. So you're like in a
Mhm.
bubble. And so consider this. If I was to sit in my chair for 24 hours a day, the rest of my life, imagining I was going places, you know, your imagination is just as good as as
Mhm.
reality. You know, you can,
Mhm.
I mean, they've done studies where you can imagine that you're going to the gym and working out every day, and you get the same benefit as if you went to the gym and worked out every day. Yes, they have done studies.
Mhm.
They have it's like the placebo effect or whatever, you know, that you give somebody
Yeah.
a fake pill and they're going to get well. Well, why
Wow.
Mhm.
what does that tell you? That you can make yourself well. But athletes, they will do these training, they practice drill exercises in their heads and they get better
Mhm.
at the same rate as the people that go out and do the physical drills every day. So the best
Mm,
athletes are probably using their imagination and their physical abilities.
right. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and plus and I think we talked about this the last call about just saying yes, if you're talking about allowing and not having attachments to things and just, letting the universe bring you the experiences that you need the next step, then, if you're like, oh, I don't know, I had this thought to do this, but then it's like, and I don't know, is that fear or is my inner voice telling me not to do it? Well, if you say yes and you're not supposed to do it, then something's going to block that. You
Mm,
like you said, there's no wrong step, like if
mhm.
and like you said, Tammy, you're headed here. And if you're, in love with the best intention, saying, okay, well, maybe it is fear, so I'm going to push past it. But then something will route you back on the path that you were supposed to be on. Um,
Yeah, you'll
and
get
just
rerouted.
like also if you decide that I'm not going to do something because I'm afraid this is going to happen, but if you're meant to have some manifestation event, then something else is just going to come in. If
Yeah.
this person didn't annoy you, then this person will, or if this thing didn't get in your way, this thing will. Like we're we're going to have the experiences we're going to have. So I think if you, it's kind of like if in doubt, just go for it in love, and then know that I will be fine. And if something bad happens, it was going to happen anyway. And if I'm meant to go a certain place and I take a different direction, then my inspiration will get me back on the path. So it kind of takes that pressure. I keep using the word pressure for some
Yeah.
reason, but
Yeah.
the pressure off, like, oh, is this the right decision? It's just like, just
Pam,
do it. Just do
Pam,
the next thing that comes to your mind.
yeah, I used to work with this guy and he was like super sweet, bubbly, joy. Everything just fell in his lap everywhere he went. He was always happy, you know. I mean, he did everything. I mean, he did everything for everybody. And he was always so kind. He always had the best jobs. He probably didn't do any work. He just wrote, he just made a lot of money and just, I don't know. It was just, he was one of the most hilarious people I've ever met in my life. He was good at golf and stuff like that. And I would think, I want to be more like him. You know, like what is the difference? So, you know, setting an intention to um, enjoy every moment of every
Mhm.
day, no matter what you're doing, that is really powerful because I feel like everything you know, everything you need is going to come when you lighten up. It's going to get lighter and lighter, and
Yeah.
or that's been my experience, I will say. And
Yeah.
I really have always had kind of a magical life, but I've had highs and lows a few times too. You know, I've had the things that I really planned for never happened.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
things that were unimaginable have happened too, I mean,
Yep.
I didn't,
And it's true.
I didn't, it's just like having a child. It's like this idea is birth and then it grows and grows, or, it grows into or maybe a tree. You plant seeds. So inspirations are really just seeds, and you only have
Oh
to
yeah,
take
I love
one
that.
step. And, some of them are going to grow into a tree, but some of them are going to be little tiny bushes and fall away.
It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a great place to end our call on.
Right.
Perfect.
So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful.
Really good to
you.
see y'all.
Great
week, and I'll
Yeah.
see you in 2 weeks.
All right.
Bye.
Perfect. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Love y'all.